The essence of the virtual reality game Dantalion is that the player lies down in a specially equipped capsule and is immersed in the game dimension. But the peculiarities of this particular game are that its elements are generated in random order each time. This brings even more awe to the high degree of difficulty of this game, as well as a sense of reality that could be felt using virtual space. The population of the whole world was delighted with this game. At the same time, the figure of 3 million users on the network indicated its worldwide popularity. But one day a strange message appeared in the game, the essence of which was that the character and the user were synchronized, and if the character dies, the player himself dies. The group of characters playing through the game didn't realize what happened, but then the monster's red stakes impaled several players. Screens appeared with system notifications that the character was dead and the player was also dead, which the characters initially could not believe. The system displayed another message saying that the game was over. The capsule with the player began to make sounds and shake. The face of a bloody guy appeared in the window of the capsule. He was killed not only in the game, but also in the real world. One after another, the corpses of users began to appear. All players who ignored the system's warning died. In a large conference room, a man at the podium informed those present that this incident in the game began simultaneously around the world. A middle-aged man dressed in a classic suit also added that everyone associated with this game also died a strange death from cardiac arrest. Experts could not offer any solution to the problem. There was only one way to put an end to this, and that was to complete the 72nd floor in the Dantalion game. However, this level was too difficult and none of the users could pass it, as if it was intended to be so. The main character's sister is stuck inside this game. The guy had no other choice but to complete this game, because he certainly had to save his sister, so he went into a capsule to immerse himself in virtual reality. And now the guy finds himself in virtual reality. He changes visually. Now he looks much larger than in the real world. The system displayed a message about completing the settings and selecting the monk class, as well as about the authorization of the user Wayne in the Dantalion game. The guy was surprised that the start of the game looked suspiciously simple. He didn't know what was going on. Then he heard a woman's voice and turned towards him. A pretty girl in cute clothes with her hair tied in 2 ponytails appeared in front of him. She said that she knew that the guy would choose this look. She was a manager, and her name was Chloe, and in life she was his friend. To which Wayne only asked about the fact that she goes on stream in such clothes. The girl was confused and asked what was wrong with her clothes. Outside the game, the girl dressed simpler and did not tie her hair in ponytails. She asked the guy to stop his indecent fantasies. Chloe changed her form to a more simplified one, even more cartoonish. She told the young man that she always streams like this, to which the guy reacted skeptically. The girl added that only Wayne can see her in the game and she herself cannot influence the game, but she can act as an observer. The guy told her to remember only one thing, that even now his sister Bella was still waiting for them. Then a holographic blue cube appeared in the air and calling the guy a psycho. He was surprised that someone else was entering the game. Other cubes appeared. Wayne asked Chloe what kind of idiots these were. The girl answered the guy that if he wants to be the first to pass Dantalion, then he will need help, since there are too many random settings in this game, and Chloe will not be able to keep track of everything, and these cubes act as navigators. The young man greeted the audience, and told them to watch him get to the end. Now the guy decided to warm up to test his movements. He was surprised by the quick response, noticing that it was very different from the other game with 70 sync. After warming up a bit, he decided to himself that there wouldn't be any special problems. The flying cubes were surprised by his speed at learning movement skills in the game, but some noted it as useless as it wouldn't help in real combat. One of the dice said that the skeleton tower was the most difficult stage among the initial ones, but Wayne looked at the dice with a dissatisfied look. Suddenly, in front of everyone's eyes, the floor tile broke and a bone hand appeared from it. Skeletons appeared from the floor. One of the dice noted that these were the strongest among the monsters of the first stage. The cursed skeletons began to appear one after another. Their bodies were enveloped in purple flames, and their eyes burned with the same bright light. They could move due to this evil aura that penetrated the bones of the deceased players and revived their skeletons. Chloe's face was covered with excitement, and the dice only aggravated the situation with their pessimistic remarks. The girl thought that this was a failure, since no one usually won alone with the damned skeletons. The manager shouted to the young man to be careful, because if the enemies hit him, Their attack would put a curse on the guy, but Wayne asked her not to worry about him. One of the damned skeletons moved straight towards the guy, but the young man deftly dodged his attack and noticed for himself that everything was simpler than he expected. Now Wayne was ready to strike the enemy. He concentrated his magical power in his fist and swung at the monster. He strikes the cursed skeleton and realizes that there is nothing special about the enemy. His fist burned due to 99% synchronization. Those watching the broadcast commented on the fight. One of the commentators expressed himself in a not very polite manner, and the young man turned to him and said that he remembered his login. He threatened the commentator with violence as soon as he won and left the game, while he himself was running away from the army of damned skeletons that were chasing him. One of them caught up with the guy. His eyes lit up with a purple light, but he immediately receives a powerful blow from Wayne. The guy struck the enemy with all his strength and speed. He defeated every skeleton that stood in his way as he moved forward. Then a system message appeared, which announced that the young man had reached the second level. The guy immediately wondered how many levels there were in this game. The girl explained that there are 3 levels on the first floor of the Tower of the Dead, to which the guy was surprised that there were quite a few of them. Meanwhile, viewers continued to send comments with harsh content. But Chloe asked the young man not to relax, because according to some, the second level is considered the most difficult, and then new damned skeletons appeared. They were different from the cursed skeletons of the first level. These enemies were armed with huge swords, and their bones were covered with armor. They were heading straight towards Wayne and Chloe. The system added that their strength exceeded the enemies of the first level by 5 times. The girl became frightened and began to dissuade the young man from fighting, but the guy said that he did not intend to retreat. And so, one of the skeletons leaned forward. He prepared to strike Wayne, but the guy stood with a calm expression, as if nothing threatened him at the moment. He reasoned that in previous games low synchronization was difficult to play, but here it was howling high, making opponents' movements seem too slow. And so, the damned armored skeletons were already close to the young man, and only now he began to act. Spinning in a somersault, he kicked one of the opponents. A moment later, he had already attacked each of the cursed skeletons and broke through their army forward. The comments noted that the hero does not strain much, but at the same time his movements are super fast and his attacks are effective. Chloe, who had previously doubted Wayne, also noted his outstanding abilities. She did not expect that he would be so perfect in fighting an armed opponent. The young man dealt with all the enemies, and then he noticed the door in front of him. All that remained was to go up there and that's it. Wayne confidently moved forward towards the goal, because there was very little left to it. He deftly kicks the door off, forcing the double doors to hit the walls, and he flies into the new room. It was a room with a boss monster. The guy noted that the first tests were very easy, and then the skeleton boss himself appeared. He looked more terrible than the previous ones. This time his eyes exuded blue flames. The enemy was gigantic in size. His skull was covered with thick gray hair. The system called him a giant skeleton, a hidden boss, and until now there has not been a single case of passing this monster. Wayne didn't understand what it meant that the boss was hidden, and Chloe also didn't know why this monster appeared in his first game. This time the young man was wary. He crouched slightly, preparing to evade a sudden attack. The enemy's powerful blow did not take long to arrive. With just one attack, the monster smashed the tiled floor into small pieces. The manager explained that his level is much higher than those monsters, and we must remember the features of the map when the guy dodges. The giant cursed skeleton clenched his fist, steaming from the attack. Wayne himself was convinced of his strength when he saw how the skeleton boss destroyed a block wall with one blow. The young man did not intend to give up. He stood in a fighting pose and said that he was ready to fight properly. And so the giant swung to deliver his powerful high-speed attack on the hero. The guy focused his gaze and was able to quickly dodge even at such a speed of the enemy's strike. But the monster did not stop at this blow. He launched a series of powerful blows towards Wayne, but the young man dodged each of them. The attacks of the giant boss became more powerful each time, destroying everything in its path. But the guy managed to dodge them, but so far he could not attack him in response. Chloe warned the young man about the destruction of the pillars, and the player thanked her in response. He dodged their fall and prepared to finally attack the cursed skeleton boss. The monster was preparing to strike back at the hero, accumulating all its rage in its fist. The young man dodges the enemy's powerful blow and slides next to his legs, preparing to answer the monster in kind. The damned skeleton boss was on his guard. The guy had a special technique for such cases, and it's a kick to the legs that he deftly lands on the giant, forcing the skeleton to lose his balance and meet his end. And so the monster, having lost its balance, quickly flies down to the floor, and the guy prepares to take cover from the fall of his heavy bones. But the young man had one more trick in store. This was a crushing blow at great speed. The guy clenched his hand into a fist and prepared to attack. The holograms of the cubes remembered one game where this technique was used. It was the war game King of Fists. And the guy himself was the same one who won for 5 years in a row. He was the strongest of the strongest. A powerful blow was sent from below directly to the enemy's jaw. The skull of the cursed skeleton flies into the air from the general body of the monster. He lands on the floor and bounces across it. Wayne picks up the skull and spins it easily on his finger. The guy was pleased with his victory. The commentator's chat exploded with shock and praise towards Wayne, while the guy himself threw the skull to the floor and left. The young man approached the doors with the intention of leaving the hall, leaving the defeated monsters behind him. He simultaneously opened both huge doors to the entrance to the new hall. Wayne entered another room, huge in size. There was no light in the hall. The guy heard steps approaching him. A blond man appeared from the darkness, and the young man immediately swung his fist and struck him in the direction. But the man in the red suit easily stopped this attack. He smiled at the guy and said that he had been waiting for him. An angry Wayne asked the man who he was. The action moved to the game room with 2 capsules and monitors broadcasting the game. There was just a moment of the victory of the King of the Fist. 3 men appeared in the room and they approached the capsule with Wayne. They opened the capsule with the young man to congratulate the new champion of the King of the Fist. The guy was happy about the win and was given the winner's cup. Despite the fact that it was now a game, the young man noted that the hall was very empty, probably due to the fact that the game had lost popularity. The janitor asked Wayne to step aside as he needed to prepare for the next game. The guy went out into the street. It was already evening. There was bustling traffic and crowds of people wandering through the streets of the city. Standing against the wall of one of the houses, the young man tried to call someone. He was clearly annoyed. He called his sister, but her phone did not answer. The answering machine went off. Wayne suspected that she was playing her game Dantalion. Virtual game Dantalion. Exit from the fantastic labyrinth. Synchronization of the connection with the virtual reality body 99%. Not a single repeating element. Even after hundreds and thousands of attempts at the game, gamers all over the world are delighted with Dantalion's advanced technologies. And the strangest thing is that for 5 years many users have tried to play this game, but no one has completed it to the end. While waiting for his sister's answer, the guy wondered if this game was really that interesting. In his memories, a house appeared completely engulfed in flames. Wayne and his sister lost their parents in that fire when they were little, so from then on they relied only on each other. The young man was worried that he might not be able to make up for their loss, so Bella became very interested in virtual games. But the guy continued to believe that someday his sister would overcome this grief and open her heart to him, because she was a strong person. A message appeared on the phone from Bella, where she happily announced her winnings. Wayne thought about buying her favorite dish. The guy pulled away from the wall and wandered away, carrying with him the donated cup. Suddenly, a huge electronic billboard appeared in front of him, on which some breaking news was loudly announced. The young man stopped in front of it and decided to look to find out its content. According to the news, it was announced that a fatal system error occurred in the virtual game Dantalion, which claimed the lives of many users. A worldwide emergency was declared, and at the moment there are about 300 million people online. The young man called his friend and asked her to come to Bella, and he rushed home as fast as he could, throwing aside the cup that he had won. A multi-story building appeared in front of him. He ran into it. Together with Chloe, he quickly entered his sister's room. His sister Bella was lying in the game capsule. Wayne and Chloe stopped in front of the capsule. They were short of breath from running so fast. The young man's friend approached the screen displaying Bella's physical indicators. They turned out to be normal, which indicated that her sister was still alive. The young man fell onto the sofa with relief and took off his outerwear. The news said that the government of various countries blocked the download of the game Dantalion. Currently 300 million users remain on the network. As a result of the search for those associated with the Dantalion game, the chairman of the company is found missing and the director is found dead. Chloe showed a broadcast of this game on her phone screen, where one of the players was squeezed into a corner. The girl said that Dantalian streamers transmit real-world news into the game itself. One of the streamers was in battle with a monster in the form of a huge snake. One guy told the players not to worry, this is the Messiah who will pass through Dantalian and save 300 million people. Wayne watched all these stream fragments with tension. He asked Chloe if there was another way to escape, but the girl replied that only if you complete the game to the end. After all, according to one of the rules of the game, when you complete it to the end of all levels, you exit automatically. Wayne's friend began to suspect that this item in the game was added by the game developers for a reason. It sounded sad that the game's creator was not oblivious to the fact that something like this could happen, but Chloe said there were professionals among the stranded users, and they have to wait until they complete all the levels. The best result in Dantalian was the 50th floor. The young man, sighing heavily, decides to go to the game in person. A friend called Wayne crazy, because hundreds and thousands of people tried to pass it, but no one could. But the guy told her that that's why he should try to pass it. The young man added that he won the King of Fists 5 times in a row, and that there is no one who knows virtual games better than anyone, to which the friend countered that Wayne had never played Dantalian, but he replied that it was okay, because he had Chloe. Wayne's friend reached the 38th floor in Dantalian. She was a streamer, and quite intelligent, and she, like the young man, loved Bella very much. The girl agreed to the guy's request, but in return asked him to start broadcasting so that Chloe could help him. The young man agreed and added that he intended to destroy Dantalian. He went into a capsule, thanks to which you can get into the virtual world of the game. The capsule scanned the user's physical data to create an optimal environment. Events again returned to the room with a blonde man in a red suit, whom Wayne intended to hit. He introduced himself as the Demon King who was in charge of the first 3 floors of Dantalian, and he mentioned the constant volatility of the game. The young man tensed, because the stranger easily stopped his blow, despite the fact that Wayne put a lot of force into him. The guy prudently jumped to the side, and the man told him that Wayne probably had a lot of questions about who he was, and also why people are stuck in the game and so on. The young man frowned at the man in the red suit, waiting for an answer. But he extended his index finger up and simply replied that all his answers were at the very top. The Demon King added that it was necessary to climb into the labyrinth, and do everything he could in the most desperate state, shedding sweat and blood. And it is quite possible that along the way he will find what he is looking for. The young man was not satisfied with this vague answer. He gritted his teeth and rushed towards the man. Wayne called the man in the crane suit terrible and, clenching both hands into fists, rushed towards him. The Demon King calmly continued to stand in place, smiling from ear to ear with his shark teeth, his pupils sparkling with pink light. But Chloe stopped Wayne with her sudden appearance right in front of his face. She asked him to calm down, because otherwise the guy would not pass the game. The man repeated the girl's words, snapped his fingers, and then 3 huge doors appeared, sparkling in 3 different colors. He explained to the young man that he had passed the first floor of the labyrinth, and these 3 doors lead to the next level. Behind each of them there are different tests. It is unknown which of these tests will be more difficult. The young man did not understand the Demon King's words. Chloe said that even in the basic Dantalian system there is no explanation. But the girl decided to try to explain the essence of the game to the guy in simple language. And in short, in this game there are 72 floors of the labyrinth if the guy completes the game when he gets to the very top. After completing each level, he can choose one of 3 doors. The door is blue, means strengthening. You can go to the next level if the indicators are slightly higher. The strengthening effect is limited to the next stage. The green color of the door means restoration. Here you can heal all wounds received on previous floors and go to the next. And lastly, the door is yellow, golden blessing. If you go to the floor next to this color, you can get gold coins as a reward. Gold is labyrinth money, which can be used at transit points. To do this, you just need to give the gold to the merchant and purchase an equipment item card. Chloe also added that there is a reason why players do not choose the golden door. If the players lose on the next floor, no amount of gold coins will help them. It is better to choose strengthening or healing than an unknown future. The man waited for the end of the girl's monologue and reminded that Wayne needed to make a choice between strengthening, restoration, and gold. The manager explained to the guy that as soon as he opened the door, the next battle would immediately begin. The guy decisively stepped forward, He chose the golden door, considering that strengthening and restoration would not remain with him, but gold would. He entered a magical door sparkling with gold, and a new dark hall appeared. Behind him, on the golden door, a holographic screen appeared with a system message about the achievements the player received for completing the previous level. The girl noted that he had 3 achievements, which was a good sign. The guy didn't quite understand this. Chloe explained that in Dantalian there is no system of characteristics. Achievements are important here. The more of them, the more physical abilities the character has. And that for now there is no noticeable difference between the first or third achievement. But when 20 or 30 of them accumulate, the difference can already be considered as the difference between a child and an adult. The girl asked the young man if anything had changed, to which he replied that his body had become a little lighter. Suddenly, a monster with huge eyes, like red spheres, appeared from the darkness of the hall. He held dice with a different number of sides in his claws. Wayne asked the manager who the dark guy was, and Chloe explained that he was a non-player character randomly generated by the game. This unknown character threw his dice and opened his paw. The discarded edges were illuminated with blue light, and a labyrinth and a key were depicted on them. The system displayed a message that the guy had entered the stage. The commentator warned to turn down the volume in the speakers. At the same moment there was a strong roar of the creatures. Wayne and Chloe found themselves in a corridor, on both sides of which there were cages with monsters emitting terrible loud screams. They burst out of their cells, trying to get out. The young man covered his ears with his hands so as not to go deaf. Suddenly, 3 monster guards appeared in the corridor, who ordered the monsters to remain silent, while they themselves pointed at the hero with a trident and called him an escaped prisoner. The system displayed a timer on the hologram screen, with the allotted time of half an hour to complete the stage, and the monster himself ordered his comrades to grab the guy. The manager ordered the guy to run away for now. He obeyed and rushed forward along the corridor, and the monsters from the cages ordered him to free them. Chloe briefly explained that to Win, it is necessary to free one prisoner, so that while he fights with the guards, the young man will find the keys and the entrance to the labyrinth. But Wayne's friend didn't know which of the prisoners would agree to help them. But then her gaze fell on one girl chained in the cell. The manager ordered the guy to collect all the keys from the floor and free the prisoner on the right. The young man stopped at the desired camera and sat down on the floor to collect the keys from it. He noted that there were too many keys on the floor, and meanwhile Chloe urged him on. The guards discovered them and rushed to the guy and his girlfriend. One of the monster guards raised his trident and intended to kill Wayne. At that moment, the guy dealt with the lock on the cell and freed the prisoner. She protected the young man and his manager, stopping the monster's attack. The prisoner knocked the trident out of the monster's clutches and pierced the guard with it. There are 2 types of NPCs in Dantalian. Non-player characters were the most important element of this game. They, like the players, participate in the game. With their help you can climb to the very top floor of the maze. The prisoner dealt with all the guards. She took the keys from her enemies and removed the shackles from her hands. Despite the fact that she was wearing torn rags, she was a beautiful girl with long white hair. The young man doubted that she would help him, but Chloe asked her to believe, and the stranger immediately bowed down before the guy. She told Wayne that she was a member of the Knightly Order and was the leader of the Central Order, and her name was Emma. Then the guy noticed the approaching shadow of a little girl behind her. The girl thanked the young man for saving her and her sister Abigail. Emma offered her help in exchange for taking her sister with her. The young man said that he didn't care, as long as she helped, and Abigail showed a short route to meet the deadline. The guy doubted Chloe's choice of allies, but nevertheless, there were new guards on their way, and the guy deflected their attacks. He relied on the plan of the little girl, who in the meantime was figuring out how to find a route to travel. Abigail opened the door and led everyone behind her. There were only 11 minutes left, and the entrance did not appear. Wayne ran forward with his allies. They showed him the way. Around the corner was a new group of monster guards. The guy was about to run away from them, but Emma said that she would deal with them and took out her sword. She stepped forward straight towards the monster guards and raised her sword to strike. She raised her sword into the air and activated her skills, the spaces around her lighting up with a pink glow. Instantly, she struck at all the guards that blocked their path. Behind her lay the bloody bodies of unconscious monsters. She ordered her accomplices to move forward. Wayne noted her cool move, and Chloe added that she had skills, along with skill cards. There was the only technique supported in Dantalian. If in virtual reality it was possible to reproduce movements with a high level of skill, this could be materialized in skills. At that moment, Abigail showed Wayne and Chloe the way out, but he was behind bars. The door was closed, and the girl said that 3 keys were needed and asked the others to wait. The young man looked back while Abigail tried to figure out the lock. There was a sound in the corridor, and at the same moment a giant guard appeared in front of them. He loudly shouted to surrender, and threatened that if they did not obey, they would be killed. Emma was tired of fighting, and Abigail was still trying to open the ill-fated door. The monster added that if they fall into his hands, he will treat them like last time, to which the girls remembered something unpleasant and tensed up from it. Wayne called the little girl and told her to calm down, and imagine that she was in the bedroom of her house, and he added that he would take on this monster. Abigail calmed down and continued to try to open the lock. Meanwhile, the system indicated that there were less than 2 minutes of time left to complete the game, and the young man stood in front of the enemy. Suddenly a bright light flashed in front of the monster's head. These were the hero's quick attacks. The guard grabbed the guy to strike him. The young man continued to dodge his attacks. The monster noted that girl moved completely differently during the fight. The guy asked Chloe if he could repeat Emma's cool moves, but the girl gave a negative answer. But the young man smiled and decided to do what he had already done many times in another game. He focused his movements on each step and performed a king fist move. Wayne concentrated all his energy into his fist and was able to activate his skills. The young man launched a blow at the monster, which was accompanied by a huge whirlwind of golden light. The blow was like a storm and destroyed everything in its path. This attack pierced a hole in the guard. The young man looked around and realized that he had succeeded. Chloe was surprised at how easily the guy managed to activate his skills, and the monster lay nearby on the floor in front of the guy, defeated by Wayne. Meanwhile, Abigail was able to open the door lock. The guy quickly praised the girl and ordered everyone to run, as the newly arrived monster guards were already chasing them. The exit door was in front of them, but the system showed that there were only 3 seconds left until the end of the game time. At the very last second, Wayne burst through the door with his comrades. A digital board with achievements for the completed round was displayed on the door in front of the guy. The young man breathed a sigh of relief as they were close to defeat, and Chloe praised him for gaining 3 more achievements. Wayne looked at the 2 sisters who were helping him with the test. Emma bowed before the guy and thanked him for saving them. The young man responded by saying his name. The girl thanked Wayne again and gave her word to the knightly order to sacrifice her life for him. Chloe added that they could help the guy climb the floors, but he became thoughtful. Abigail took Wayne's finger with her small hand and thanked him. For a moment, the guy saw his younger sister in her. Memories from the past appeared before his eyes. The guy decided that she should not follow him. He thought that this would not bring anything good and let go of her hand. Wayne deliberately responded coldly that the girls would only get in the way and asked them to go their own way. The sisters turned around and walked away towards the shining door. Chloe said that they could help the guy, but he briefly replied that he could handle it himself, and he needed to hurry. He again chooses the golden doors and enters the new hall. This time the aura of the room was different. It amazed him. A woman's voice was heard ahead, reproaching the guy for standing at the door for too long. The system displayed the name of this boss. The bored Queen Annie, who was tired of everything, appeared herself. She was very beautiful in appearance, and resembled a succubus. Next to her was a red dog. The essence of the task was to satisfy the queen's whims. Chloe told the guy that she had already gone through this level with her, the essence of which was simply to satisfy the whims of the queen. There were other players in the hall who tried to please Annie with tricks, tasty treats, or expensive gifts. But the queen did not like anything proposed. She ordered the annoying players to kill each other. The young man decided not to waste time on this, and clenched his fist with the intention of fighting Annie. But the manager warned that the queen was not created to fight with her. She was too strong, because it was already the 3rd floor. Wayne became wary. He felt the vibes of fear that she emitted, and that this floor was different from the previous ones. He thought that there might be something hidden here. Annie reminded the guy of her presence. She called the guy to her, beckoning with her index finger. The young man came up with an idea that he could try. He asked Chloe to trust him and headed to the queen. The manager did not understand the guy's intentions, but watched as he approached Annie's bed. The young man resolutely sat down on the queen's bed and approached her. Annie said the guy was cute and licked his lips. Chloe blushed at what she saw. This was clearly not what she expected from Wayne. The young man approached the queen even closer. She cashed the guy and had no intention of resisting his actions. Annie approached the guy's face, and Chloe shouted out requests for the guy to stop his intentions. But Wayne didn't listen to her. He moved closer to the queen's face, touching her nose a couple of centimeters from her lips. Suddenly the guy's actions changed. He grabbed the queen by the neck and held her tightly in a grip. He explained to the real enemy that if he moved, the succubus would die. The dog, who was previously small in size, suddenly turned into a giant. He was a real boss. Chloe was surprised at how the guy was able to figure out the real enemy, and Wayne explained that he felt enormous power, but not from the succubus, but from her dog. The guy also showed a tag he found along the way with the nickname Barney. One of the holographic cubes told Chloe that she was jealous, but the girl hit him in response. Meanwhile, Wayne tightened his hand on the succubus's neck. He threatened the real boss that if he fought the guy, he would rip the queen's head off. The giant dog pumped his fist into the air. A whirlwind of air and debris from a broken interior formed in the room. The young man waited for the boss's decision, and he looked at the guy carefully. The hostage addressed the huge dog like a mistress. She growled in response, the rage never leaving her eyes. The young man waited to see if this method would work. Another wave of air rose in the room, and then the dog began to decrease in size before our eyes to its previous size. The boss asked not to touch Barney. The young man asked whether she would be satisfied if he let the succubus go, to which the dog responded positively. The boss added that if the guy lets the queen go and leaves her alive, she will be happy and cry at the end. The system displayed a message about completing the level. The guy left the hall, and Annie and Barney, hugging each other, remained in the same room. Meanwhile, Wayne asked Chloe what she was offended by. The girl answered evasively. The guy heard someone laughing behind him. It was the same man in a red suit whom the guy had already seen earlier. He was impressed that the guy managed to satisfy Annie. The young man looked at the Demon King warily. The man clicked his finger, and a holographic screen immediately appeared with achievements for the level passed. The Demon King announced to Wayne that he had completed all 3 floors that the man in red had prepared for him. He also warned that ahead of him was the very floor where the next tests would take place. The guy noted that this time there was only 1 door. The Demon King explained that there was only 1 door on every 3rd floor, so there was no need to think about it. A rest room was waiting for the young man ahead. He added that there it will be possible to meet other players, as well as non-player characters who helped the guy earlier. Wayne asked Chloe if it was possible that he would meet his sister here, but the girl replied that Bella had been in the game for a long time and most likely she was at a higher level. Mentally, the guy asked his sister to wait a little longer, clarifying that he was completing the game faster than anyone else. He walked resolutely towards the doors leading to another room. He paused for a moment in front of the entrance that separated it from the recreation room. An evaluation sheet, which was compiled by the Demon King in charge of the floors, appeared on the doors. Chloe said that there are different levels, depending on which the player receives a certain amount of gold. Words of praise were written on the sheet, resulting in Wayne being given a high rank and awarded 100 gold coins. The guy asked what this rank meant, and Chloe was surprised at how high the rank was. The new location resembled a fantasy town. One of the players ran out into the street and told the others that there was some strange player who was pulling out cards. Wayne poured gold coins onto the table and asked for one of the cards. The girl standing behind the bar was horrified by so many gold coins. The players present in the establishment did not believe that the guy was really buying cards. Then the store owner came down the stairs and ordered the guests to be given over to him. Lenny was an NPC who said she received 100 gold coins from Wayne. She recognized the young man's abilities and turned around in the bar shelf. The hostess lifted one of the bottles, causing a crash. The liquor shelf turned into a map cabinet. The girl took a stack of cards and began to shuffle them. Lenny laid out 3 cards in front of the guy and invited him to turn them over. Wayne noticed that a huge crowd of people surrounded him behind him. He asked the hostess to look at the cards alone, to which the woman replied that this was impossible. Chloe also became wary, noting the danger of the situation. After all, if a person sees an interesting thing, he wants to possess it. The demons show the players a valuable reward in order to evoke a feeling of greed. By this they want to force the players to desperately fight for the reward. Despite his dissatisfaction, the young man revealed all 3 cards lying in front of him on the table. All the cards turned out to be rare. The crowd warily watched Wayne's actions. Chloe explained that rare items have only a 5% chance of dropping, and only on the 3rd floor. She added that normal rank cards have one type of experience indicator, and skills and equipment are at the normal level. An unusual card already has 2 experience indicators, equipment and skills of an unusual level. And a rare card, there are already 3 indicators of experience, a rare level of equipment and skills. The holographic cubes decided among themselves which item was better, to which the guy asked them to be silent so that he could make his own choice. Wayne thought about what one of the commenters said about choosing a monk's belt, thanks to which one can achieve divine synergy. The young man decided on the monk's belt, because he considered that the more synergy of one type, the greater the effective strength and damage. The store owner once again clarified his choice in favor of the monk belt, to which Wayne responded in the affirmative. He took the chosen card from the table. The system displayed a new message with a proposal to use the monk's belt. The young man confirmed the action of use. The space around shone with a bright blue light throughout the entire tavern, and in an instant the guy was wearing the belt. A system window immediately appeared in the air, where an increase in indicators appeared. But in the meantime, behind the guy's back, a gloomy atmosphere reigned among those present, clearly jealous of the item the guy had acquired. The young man noticed their intense gaze, but Chloe reassured him that fighting was prohibited in the recreation area. Wayne headed to his bedroom for the night, anticipating problems from tomorrow. Chloe told the guy that Bella wasn't there, but the guy told her that he needed to sleep. Since he felt tired, the girl suggested turning off the broadcast and getting some sleep. The young man turned off the broadcast and lay down on the bed. He was stressed by the fact that even while in the game, he needed to sleep. Closing his eyes, the guy had a nightmare from a past incident with a fire in his house. Wayne stood with his sister, as his father headed into the flames to save people left in the burning house. Little Wayne did not want to let his father go, but he patted him on the head and asked him to take care of Bella. Then he leaves his son and runs in the direction of the burning house. Wayne shouts after him, and then the dream ends. The young man abruptly jumps out of bed. He is amazed at the realism of the nightmare he has seen. A system notification popped up about the manager entering the chat. The guy leaves the hotel. Chloe asks about his well-being, to which the guy replied that he feels good. The young man went down to the pub hall. Quite a lot of people had already gathered there. They immediately surrounded Wayne and began asking him various questions about obtaining gold coins and asking him to join them. The young man was perplexed, and the manager explained that in the recreation area you can hire non-player characters to go through levels together, and the better the skills, the higher the competition. But the guy told the crowd that he didn't need anything and asked them to leave him alone. The young man explained to the girl that he intended to go alone, since he did not trust anyone. He approached the door that separated the recreation area from the new level. People moved towards the door and wanted to go through it together. The system announced the entrance to the 4th floor. The location changed from a town to a mysterious forest. There were many other players in attendance along with Wayne. Suddenly someone's footsteps were heard from the forest. People turned around at the sound. It was Adriana. She was the demon king in charge of the 4th, 5th, and 6th floors. People around watched her appearance warily. The girl was dressed in a long dress with a slit on the side. She had long black hair. She immediately announced a task in this forest, the essence of which was to find 3 beads. After every 3 floors there's a rest area. This is a place where you can change your equipment and relax before entering the next Demon King stage. Players who have been separated can meet again in the recreation area, where you can purchase cards and change equipment from the NPC merchant. All participants in the passage of the 4th floor were in suspense before the current mission. The Demon King of this floor, Adriana, arrogantly noted the players as not very attractive people, but this is even more interesting. She said the task in the forest is simple. You need to collect 3 beads. This information is also duplicated on the system screen. The players were confused. They did not understand the essence of the task. One of the players came forward and shouted at Adriana, demanding that she properly explain the essence of the task. But at the same moment a giant snake appeared. She pounced on the boy and began to eat him. The monster in the form of a snake completely swallowed up the emboldened player, and Adriana calmly continued to sit and asked those present if there were anyone still dissatisfied. All the players shook with fear and did not answer the girl. She told them to hurry up and start the task. She briefly repeated the terms of the mission, which stated that you need to bring her 3 beads, and then she will be allowed to go to the next stage. And at the end she added with a smile, the more beads they find, the better. People around began to disperse, quietly indignant at each other. while Wayne stood still and thought. He also didn't understand what to do, but then Chloe flew up and told him to trust her and follow her. The young man ran as fast as he could into the depths of the forest, and the girl explained to him the essence of the test as she went. None of the players knew anything about the game except for the NPCs, but Wayne had information from other players who had played the games hundreds and thousands of times, and they shared their knowledge and experience about the levels, so Wayne had an idea of how to beat them. He was in an advantageous position than the other players, Chloe guiding his route. The task of this floor was to collect beads hidden in the forest and bring them to Adriana, who was in the middle of the clearing. These beads could be found in the possession of creatures that lived in the forest, hanging from trees, or buried deep in the ground. The stronger the animal or the higher the tree, the greater the chance that they will have the beads. The most important thing is to act quickly, because the number of beads was limited. Towards the end, some NPCs no longer tried to look for them, they simply killed each other to take them. Therefore, it was necessary to quickly complete this level before the massacre began. Wayne and Chloe ran to the largest tree in the forest. One of the commentators said that there was a snake cave near the roots. Other users asked to kill this snake. Chloe said that we need to find traces of the snake. There will be an entrance to the cave. While the girl intended to look for the cave, the guy examined the soil under his feet and came up with an idea. He raised his leg above the ground to strike. The manager did not understand the meaning of his actions. Wayne hit the ground with all his might. Immediately the crash of stones was heard. The ground split, forming an abyss, into which Wayne and Chloe flew down. During the flight, the girl asked where the guy got such skills. He explained that he just did what he tried in the last game, and it worked out for him. After a couple of moments, they seemed to be at the bottom of a giant snake monster cave. There was nothing living inside the cave, but only one snake lived in this cave. The girl thought that the larger the place and the stronger the beast, the greater the chances of finding the beads in the cave of the boss monster of this level, the huge snake Arnold. Chloe explained to the guy that Arnold is not active during the day, so this is his chance. Suddenly, a sharp loud noise was heard in the cave. Other players appeared on the ruins of the collapsed ceiling and noticed that the guy had discovered this place too quickly. Chloe recognized them from the break room, where they were already watching Wayne. The guy noted the strangeness of these people. They looked like zombies. Chloe suggested that it could be mind control magic, but one of the players, apparently their main one, objected that it is natural that people listen to those who are stronger. But he had a sword covered in pink flames in the form of a tentacle that controlled people. The girl was surprised that the hero had such a powerful artifact at only the 4th level and suspected him of fraud. The man with the sword raised it towards Wayne. He ordered the young man to give up his rare card, then he would not kill the guy. But Wayne smiled and showed him the middle finger, answering that he would not give up the card. An artifact item is an item that has no synergy but has a special function. Sometimes high-level artifacts can be more important than cards, and a high-level equipment card can contain synergy, and at the same time be an artifact. The man became embittered and ordered the people subordinate to him to kill Wayne. They rushed to the guy. They began to swing their weapons at the young man in an attempt to injure him. Wayne thought that he could defeat them. He had no reason to lose. On each floor he collected 3 achievements, which means he is ahead of them in height. He clenched his fist and hit one of his opponents. The guy fought back everyone who dared to approach him, and their leader stood and watched the battle. The man noted that the guy was strong, and not just lucky, who easily got the cards. He turned to Wayne and told him that he was stronger than he thought. Chloe noted that his weapon was too strong and not up to the level of a hero. The villain asked the young man if he wanted to get this sword and raised the weapon into the sky. The girl warned the guy to be careful, because the young man did not yet have a magic shield, so just one blow would be enough. The man launched a shockwave at Wayne, who managed to jump to the side. He quickly dodged the attacks caused by the sword's shockwaves. The enemy fires another sword beam, but his men were standing in front. The man hits one of his subordinates in the head. The power of the beam instantly envelopes the player's body, and he gains new powers, directing it at Wayne. The guy saw the approaching danger and prepared to evade. At this moment, a powerful blow from the enchanted player lands. Wayne takes in his surroundings from a distance and notices something strange. An earthquake begins, the slabs under the player's feet crack, and there is noise and rumble everywhere. Chloe flies up to the guy and says that they should get out of the cave as soon as possible. The young man jumps up the mountain formed by the fall of the roof, with the goal of reaching the top and quickly getting out of the cave, which is about to collapse on everyone who was in it. He performs this maneuver quickly enough, leaving the enemy's people behind him. A man who wanted to follow Wayne out of the cave is suddenly wounded in the arm by one of the falling fragments of the roof. The hand is injured and lets go of the magic sword artifact. The enemy instantly feels a loss of strength and becomes tense. Wayne turned back when he heard a scream behind him. The man asked the guy for help, because he could barely hold his body on the edge of the cliff. The enemy repeats the request in order to get help from the guy. After thinking a little, Wayne finally decides to help the player and extends his hand to him. The man's face changes from pitiful to insidious, but then his gaze is drawn to a magic sword located on the edge of a cliff. The sword falls into the abyss, flying in front of the enemy's face. The player lets go of the cliff edge and flies after the sword, hoping to catch it. Wayne watches the flying figure of a man and a magical sword hiding in the darkness of the abyss. Suddenly, a huge open mouth of a snake monster appears in the abyss. After a short moment, it slams shut, swallowing a man with his powerful sword. A huge snake flies out of the cave above Wayne, who recognizes the monster as the boss of Arnold's floor. The girl flies up to the young man and asks about his condition. He replies that even though he is in the game, the sensations are disgusting. Chloe misunderstood him and asked again, but the guy said that it was nothing and offered to go. Arnold bites and kills those who challenge him, and stores their corpses in his cave, and among these corpses are beads. The young man and the manager follow deeper into the cave to find the beads. Inside they found many animal corpses. The guy opened the beak of one of the victims and saw the light of the beads that Wayne was collecting for himself, and the system displayed messages about the activation of the effect of the enhancement bead. Wayne collected beads from all the creatures and sat down on the top of the mountain from the bodies of the creatures defeated by the snake. He remembered Adriana's words that each bead gives one achievement. 3 beads mean completing a task, but the more there are, the better. The young man concluded that the more beads he brought to the demon queen of the 4th floor, the stronger he would become. He considers going deeper into Arnold's lair. Wayne realizes that what he needs most now is something that can counter the magic attack that player had. The guy reaches the depths of the cave of the monster snake and notices what he was looking for. It was a magical golden shield. He grabs a floating shield covered in golden scales and throws it over his shoulders. System messages pop up about obtaining Arnold's scales and equipping them. Another system message also appears about the activation of magical protection, which looked like a golden jacket. Meanwhile, the snake monster attacked other players in the forest and destroyed them all. But then he suddenly opens his huge mouth. Something happens to his body, causing the monster to fall unconscious. Arnold's soul requires stronger flesh, so his soul submits to the sword and artifact. In search of the right solution, a thought comes to the serpent. He decides to kill Wayne. Now the serpent's mind was controlled by the magical tentacle sword. At this moment, predatory cannibal rabbits gathered over the bodies of the dead, eating their bodies. But as soon as Wayne appeared, they ran away from the bodies of the victims. Chloe inquired about the young man's well-being, but he dryly replied that he didn't understand yet. The guy wanted to test the power he received from the beads. Not far from his location, Wayne heard a group of people walking and talking about something else. The young man crept up to this group of players and hid behind a stone. Suddenly, the shadow of a bird appeared in the air above them. An unknown entity grabbed a girl from this group. It was a monster beak that looked like a simple bird, only it was huge in size, and it let out a loud, piercing cry. The rest of the people panicked when they saw this monster. Chloe explained that this monster beak usually attacks noisy prey first. It likes to hunt magical creatures, because the stronger the creature, the more magical energy there is in its corpse. The guys from the group asked the girl how she was, but she began to ask them for help. Suddenly, the bird-like monster spread its huge wings, the outer feathers changing their color to bright red. The monster flapped its wings, sending an attack of feathers towards the people. The feather strikes hitting one of the group of players. He fell to the ground dead. The surviving players immediately became afraid of death and rushed away from the enemy. Wayne stretched his hands, preparing to help out his abandoned comrade. He grouped himself near the ground, preparing to make a powerful jump, and then the guy flies up, leaving behind a bright beam of light. The young man soared in the sky above the monster, which made the bird very excited. Wayne clenches his hand into a fist, preparing for a powerful attack. He hits the monster hard, slamming it into the ground. The bird let out a loud and stunning cry of pain. At the same instant, the bird releases its prey from its clutches. This blow was not enough to win, and the monster begins to attack the guy with its feather blades. The young man crosses his arms near his face to protect himself from an attack. The bird continues to emit a rain of sharp feathers from its huge wings, accompanying its attack with a piercing cry. Here Wayne comes up with a plan to fight the monster. He intends to attack this creature at its weak point. The guy folds his hands, connecting 2 index fingers forward. The young man explodes from the ground, keeping his fingers folded together, and at one moment makes his interesting attack on the monster. Wayne said that his hands were reinforced with beads and would bring great relief. At the same moment the monster falls silent and tenses. The bird comes into severe shock from such an unexpected attack. She explodes from her spot and flies away along with the guy stuck in her. The rescued girl remains on the ground and takes refuge from the windstorm raised by the monster. Chloe calls after Wayne, and the victim is puzzled by what is happening. She remains sitting on the ground, not understanding where Wayne flew and never having time to thank her savior. Meanwhile, there were people left at the destination. One of the guys said that he didn't like it. He scolded his people who returned from the campaign for not bringing a single bead. It seems that he was their leader. One of the players justified himself by saying that Arnold could not be killed so easily because of his creepiness, and the returning players were those who did not want to die. The boy pointed to the witch and added that even she was hardly safe, although she was sitting completely unperturbed. The main one begins to worry, but for now he remains silent, analyzing the situation that has arisen. He reasoned that many who tried to fight the snake monster were afraid of his power, and returned back to attack the one who could get the beads exactly like the guy himself. But the player began to doubt his idea, because he was not sure that at all anyone would be able to fight back these terrible creatures swarming in the forest. The guy understood one thing: no matter who came here with the beads, a bloody mess could not be avoided. The young man continued to look at the sky and wait for further events to develop. Meanwhile, Adriana noticed that her pet snake was hungry, and the players standing nearby were trembling, afraid of being eaten. Wayne finds himself in a huge nest of the creature that carried him away. But there were also advantages. The guy found 5 more beads and collected all the achievements. The young man was even glad, because he also got monster beak feathers. The monster itself now looked like a plucked chicken. Wayne wondered if the bird was laying eggs. The guy leaves the enemy's nest and jumps to the ground. Something immediately alarms him. He notices that the forest has become suspiciously too quiet. Neither animals, nor birds, nor even insects, they have not been felt for a long time. But then the young man hears a strange hum and realizes that something is approaching in his direction. The guy hid behind a stone, and then the clawed paw of a large animal appeared from the forest. This is a tiger monster. He was the second most powerful monster in the forest. He overtakes the victim with lightning speed and tears him to shreds. But the young man became wary. He realized that the energy clearly did not come from him. It was too powerful for this tiger. And he turns out to be right. And instantly something large in size grabs the tiger and lifts it into the sky. From the shadows appears a giant snake monster named Arnold, who was holding a tiger in his teeth, which seemed very tiny in comparison with the boss. Without hesitation, he swallows the prey he catches in one moment. Chloe notices his terrifying power, because the monster swallowed an entire tiger in one moment. Initially Arnold was not so powerful. But this was not enough for the monster snake. He smelled human flesh. Wayne was hiding behind a stone nearby, afraid to make a sound so that the monstrous snake would not discover him. Arnold discovers the guy and unleashes a crushing blow on him. The young man jumps to the side in time. He notices something strange about the monster, because initially the snake moved differently than it does now. Keeping his cool, the guy continues to run away from Arnold's attacks. Having guessed the right moment, the young man delivers a powerful kick to the body of the snake. But Wayne immediately realizes that his blow was completely useless against such a creature. The giant's tail hits the guy and he is thrown straight into the trunk of a nearby tree. The young man, crossing his arms, takes a breath. The thought occurs to him that the monster is no longer moving like a snake, but like a man. The snake laughed a wild, loud laugh. Arnold spoke like a man. He told the guy that he had been looking for Wayne everywhere for a long time. Chloe also notices this, that Arnold does not have a sufficient level of consciousness to speak. Finally, the snake approached Wayne and decides to reveal his identity to the guy. After listening to the monster's voice, the young man begins to guess what happened to Arnold, and why he behaves so strangely. Finally, He recognizes the monster as the man who attacked him with his subordinate players there in the Serpent's Cave. The monster does not give the guy any time to think and declares that he intends to devour him. The young man again quickly dodges the attack of the enemy giant creature. He also realized that the sword artifact had taken possession of the consciousness of the snake Arnold, which is why the snake began to behave, fight, talk, like the man who attacked him in the snake's cave. As he walks, Wayne begins to think about a plan to defeat a strong and gigantic enemy, and the snake continues to quickly catch up with the young man, simultaneously making fun of him. Now the monster uses a new technique. It shoots pink poison from its mouth directly at the hero. Wayne tries to escape from the sudden danger that awaits him, but the poisonous acid flew very quickly, and when it hit, those things immediately melted. The girl screamed on the other side of the playing space. The acid hits Wayne right on his back. The snake laughs in anticipation of how the guy's bones will dissolve, but the shield saved the young man from death. Arnold didn't stop there. He grabbed the young man with his tail, squeezing him tightly. He lifted the player into the air. At once he begins to squeeze his tail on the guy's body, suffocating him. The serpent brings Wayne to his mouth and asks the young man a question about how many victims he has previously devoured. And then he himself gave the answer that he had eaten 20 people, and with each one he ate he became stronger. Arnold also wondered what a guy's brain would taste like. Then suddenly his mouth opened like a flower into numerous petals, showing his many sharp teeth. The monster directed its slippery spiked tongue towards the guy. The young man does not despair and takes the blade out of his sleeve. In an instant, he cuts off the vile long tongue, covered with poisonous acid, of the snake. The poison gets on the guy's body. The monster burst into a wild cry of pain. Wayne frees himself from the snake's tail and moves away from it. The young man jumped onto the monster's face and said that thanks to the protection from Arnold's scales, the poison could not affect the guy, but he pretended to be wounded. The guy had a plan, the essence of which was to get closer to the monster and deal a crushing blow. He swings his hand, which was holding a dagger, and strikes the snake's eye. With his attack, the guy deals damage directly to the monster's pupil. The snake begins to emit a wild cry. The young man jumps away from the face of the entity. Suddenly the guy thinks of an idea to perform his special move. The monster doesn't look defeated yet, so Wayne decides to make this maneuver. He jumps up and, concentrating energy in his legs, prepares to attack the monster with a powerful kick to the eye. The guy comes back from the sky and kicks directly at the dagger stuck in the eye. A powerful light beam of energy is emitted from the eye. The monster is torn into many pieces of various sizes. As a result, all that remains from the giant snake monster is a sword artifact. At the last moment of its existence, the sword asks to wait for Wayne and not take decisive actions, because the enemy can still make the guy stronger. But the young man sends the sword artifact, thereby refusing his offer. He decisively breaks it into small fragments with his foot, turning the artifact into an unusable state. Turning around, the guy notices something strange behind him. It was the body of a monster torn into two parts behind it, from which poisonous acid was oozing. The young man joked that this creature could not be eaten, because it was most likely poisoned. To which Chloe replies that Wayne is hungry and needs something to eat. The young man dines on the fried eggs of some creature. Meanwhile, Adriana was just sitting on her big snake. But suddenly she notices something happened in the forest. She immediately understands that Wayne was somehow able to defeat the main boss alone. The piercing sounds of battle could be heard from the forest. Various creatures flew across the sky, terrifying the gathered group of players, who nervously looked out into the distance of the clouds. The guys began to discuss that someone was able to defeat that snake, and it would be nice to take the beads from him. People reasoned that if they went there, to the battle site, they might get at least one bead, because the guy had already defeated the monster. Several guys remained waiting on the spot and did not follow the other group. Then a burning male figure appeared from the darkness of the forest. One player immediately realized that it was probably the one who had collected all the beads who was returning. Covered in blood, Wayne came out of the forest to the players. The guy pulled out a sword, intending to fight with him, but another player immediately beat him to it, saying that he didn't care who he defeated, and he announced his intention to kill Wayne and take all the beads for himself. Tension hung in the air. Armed players crowded around the guy, preparing to fight him and take the beads for themselves. Wayne pulled out one red bead, showing it to everyone present. He teased them by asking if this is what they needed. The players were delighted that it really turned out to be a bead, but Wayne grabbed it in his hands and swung it hard, happily calling on the players to catch it. With all his strength, he throws a bead towards the guys. The bead is slammed into the face of one of the enemies. The player behind is horrified by the power of this attack. Having lost his teeth, he falls unconscious to the ground. The bead flies up, and another player is already preparing to catch it. But Wayne does not allow his insidious plan to come true and performs a kick on his spine, thereby preventing the villain from getting his bead. The remaining players decide to attack the young man together. They group up and run towards the guy, pointing their blades at him. But Wayne notices them and spins in the air and attacks the enemies without the slightest difficulty. He delivers powerful blows to the players one after another. Getting ahead, the commentators on the air note that those guys didn't have a chance. On average, NPCs have 4 achievements per 4 floors, but Wayne has a total of 27 beads and achievements. Their difference in strength, like that of an adult and a child, the young man defeated everyone from the group of players who attacked him.